I stand with survivors because I believe them. I believe that what happened to them is unfair and unjust, and I believe that they have a voice that deserves to be heard. I stand with survivors because what happened to them is important, but not as important as the people who they are and who they are in their lives. So simply, I stand with them because it matters and because they matter.
I stand with survivors because I know how difficult it is to go through something like that.
I stand with survivors because everyone deserves an opportunity to be acknowledged, to be heard, and to heal.
I stand with survivors because I care deeply about creating a less violent world, and I feel like standing with survivors is a necessary step in moving towards that.
I stand with survivors because I want to make sure that everyone knows that they are not alone and that there are people out here who care that you are okay at the end of the day.
I stand with survivors because we live in a pretty tough world and tenderness is incredibly important. I think, a lot of my own resiliency from standing with other people because it gives me an opportunity to think about my own strengths, my own resources, and the value of human connection and passing on really important lessons that we have earned and learned along the way.
One of the major reasons I stand with survivors, and I think this is also a bit unfortunate as well, but also unfortunately like witnessing sexual assault and sexual violence throughout my life. So wanting to use some of those personal experiences to really critique how I approach this as an adult, as a clinician, as a friend, as a partner, I think really drives me to really reframe just how I begin to act in the world and how I'm beginning to support people who might experience sexual assault or maybe even don't experience sexual assault, but just, want to make sure that their agency, their ownership of their own body, the ownership of their own livelihood is what's a priority for me, just as a friend and as a partner and as a colleague.
For me, being a gay man of color who is not born in this country, for me, I know firsthand what it's like to have experienced racism and homophobia and anti-Semitism and xenophobia. And for me is knowing that so many people go through these experiences, and for sexual assault survivors and having friends who have been sexually assaulted, particularly gay and Black men, that they're just not given any attention, and they often feel left out of the conversation, and they feel that no one wants to hear or cares about their stories or their truth as well, and really wanting to make sure that they don't feel as alone and that they know that people care about them.
Many people, including myself, are either a survivor or probably know someone who is. Yet to be able to disclose that information can be a very difficult thing to do. The other thing is that the journey to healing can look very different from person to person, and it can take a lot of courage to open up about those experiences. So for me, I think it's really important to be part of that community, to be here to help others through this process.
A number of my family members are survivors, and I know that for all that they have had to endure, I have a responsibility to speak truth to power and to create space for their experiences, and more importantly, for their support.
I have survivors in my life. I have survivors that I love. Just the amount that people go through, just not even on top of the kind of societal shame and guilt that is, passed on survivors, that responsibility that's constantly put on them when it should be put, in many other places.
Through even just having close friends of mine who've experienced sexual violence, it's really important to me that all survivors feel like they have a community, more so space, where they can go to receive support one-on-one at a peer level.
Personally, I know a lot of individuals that are survivors, and I want to empower survivors. I want survivors to know that he, she, or they are not alone.
Survivors can be invisible. They can be all around us. They can be our family members, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues.
This issue is more pervasive than I think a lot of people realize. And until we kind of treat survivors with the dignity and respect they deserve, there's a lot of harm that can be done, even unintentionally. And I think it's important to create a culture of supporting them, because you really never know what somebody's gone through or how many people have gone through that.
It's particularly important to get to a point where our culture accepts that we have work to do, that we have an issue that we need to resolve, and that it's particularly important that we don't place the business of resolving that issue on survivors, that we need to support survivors and create the change in culture.
It takes a community to heal and to recover from traumatic experiences, and it's important that more of us are dedicated to helping folks heal and recover and lean on one another as a community, that it shouldn't be one person alone having to take that burden for themselves.
Way too many members of our community have experienced sexual violence and other forms of sexual misconduct. And in order to change the culture, we have to create a campus that supports our survivors by listening and by providing referrals to resources that may be helpful to them.
It's paramount to invest time, resources, and attention in creating a culture of support and inclusion, prioritizing that who we are and all that we bring to our institution is a value, and that we have to create an inclusive space and a supportive space for all of our community members.
I want you guys to know that I believe you and that your stories are completely valid, and your feelings are completely valid. And I just want you to know that there are resources that can help you get connected to. We have a counseling center that can help you. If you need to get involved in therapy, you can even get an academic accommodation. But it's really important that you guys know that we are here for you, the community, and we want to do our best to help support you through this really awful and difficult time.
Just know there are always people you can reach out to. There'll always be somebody there for you, even if it's somebody like me, maybe somebody you don't know that well. You're very loved and supported, and don't be afraid to reach out, even though it seems scary.
I'm someone who, if you ever need me, call on me. And I'm here to support you, whether it's directly or from behind the scenes. I'm here as someone who wants to support you every step of the way.
We are around. We want what's best, and want to make sure that it doesn't happen to you or anyone else again.
You are never a burden to anyone for seeking support and seeking help.
We believe you.
We are with you.
And we are here to help you.
We're here for you 100%.